This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. Many say that once you figure out who you really are, life changes when you finally master you, master self. Actually, that's Mastering Self is the name of her book. And this is what she helps people with, moving their lives forward, transformations in so many different ways, so many different modalities as well. But it starts with this thing called being spiritual. All right, what does that mean? Means something different, I think, to everybody. We're going to dig in there and so much more. She's the owner of Infinite Healing and Wellness, and she's Colleen Brindley. She's back on the program. How are you today?
Hi, great. So happy to be here. Thank you, Steve. I love these conversations. I love, kind of exploring change, the future. Change is one of the most challenging things for humans. We really create patterns, structure in our lives for safety and protection. And so here at Infinite Healing, we really want to dive and explore and expand our perspective, take new actions, and that change, that process can be slow. And that creates a lot of frustration because sometimes we want a quick fix. We want things to be a certain way, the way our mind expected it to be, imagined it to be. But sometimes there's a greater picture. And that's where the word spiritual comes in. And so, wow, what is that? Is something we're always trying to put a definition to, put an understanding. Our mind needs to make sense of everything.
Oddly, if I needed to define it, and I find that I've become a spiritual person, everything that we're talking about has changed my life and continues to. It's all a journey. I'd be hard pressed to define spiritual. I'd have to really think of it because I know what it means for me, but I would have to verbalize what that is. How do you do that?
Well, and again, that's what the last, 6+ years have been my journey of exploring. What is this? And the first thing I think of is self-worth. I think, to know that you're worthy, that you're equal to all, there's no superiors or inferiors. Your life has great purpose and you deserve great things. But to get there, we have to plug and remove all that where we beat ourselves up. I'm not good enough. It was right. It was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I was just born unworthy and I have to build this life to create success. And so to know you're spiritual is to know you were born worthy. To
Can
know
we
that.
jump in right there because that is
Yeah.
such a and I never thought of it that way, but most therapists, mental health professionals will say that all of us have a feeling of not being good enough, many different shapes, forms, levels, and all of that. And that transcends to many different areas. Like the other day, I was walking, put my hand on the door, put the key in this office. I'm in a building where these studios are. And as I'm turning the knob of the door, I thought to myself, it just hit me. You need to be more mindful of who you give your time to. And it just like slapped me in the face. And I was like, all right, okay, all right. And I think the worth thing even comes in there too, because sometimes we'll do things that we really don't want to because we're proving our worth to others,
Right.
or we don't put a value on us of that time and what we have to offer. So now we spread ourselves thin just to feel more worthy. And
Right.
that's just a piece of what happens.
Absolutely. And that's what we see, approval seeking behaviors. I do things with resentment, anger, frustration. That could even mean cooking dinner for my family because it's the right thing to do. And so, again, spiritual means love, it means peace, it means knowing my worth and not doing things to seek approval. It also means when I spend time on something that equates to value. So when you spend time for yourself, exercising, meditating, praying, releasing and regulating your emotions, you're saying you're worthy.
Mm. You know, I never thought of it that way in terms of the spiritual thing, but how many of it? What now? Let's turn the car in another direction. Self care. That's important to take care of yourself in all different ways. Why
Right.
don't we do that? Because we're not worthy.
Right. And so our journey is this evolution to get to a point of wisdom, remembrance
Hmm.
of your worth, because innately you do know that. And really, I believe mass consciousness has had an effect. So when you look at generations, culturally, communities, there's been an energy of what's right, wrong, good, bad, how we behave, make decisions, how we process our thoughts. And so there's an evolution of that, of change, of growth. And so even look at technology in our world. I mean, again, we grew up in a time there weren't these cell phones, the computers, technology. And so a more spiritual society is more technological because we have to accept new things. And so that's what we're in a process of doing, is looking at this bigger picture. So I saw this cartoon image of this big animal, and all the people around the animal had blindfolds on, and they all were touching it and reporting to what is this bigger picture. And that's how I look at spirituality. What's this bigger picture? But it needs all of these people, and really we're almost blindfolded in really understanding that bigger picture. And it was an elephant. They all got it wrong because they're feeling different pieces and not getting the whole picture. So I think on earth, we need all of us to really get that complete picture. And so again, it takes all of us to realize that we're all equal, we're all one. It's about being connected. There's no different, there's no separation. It's all what makes the beautiful picture of our universe of being spiritual, being totally connected.
Colleen, do you feel that when we're born, we are who we are supposed to be? Okay, so we can't talk, we can't walk, and all that, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's all there. That little baby, its purpose in life, future life. It's
Yeah.
all been imprinted, if you will. And I personally believe that we all have a purpose in life. We were given talents and skills, and we're here to share and inspire others. You can be compensated for that, yes, but that is your purpose. Do you feel that the baby that's born, assuming they're healthy, it's all there. But then
Right.
life starts changing. The baby experiences things in life. There could be, arguments at home or something that was said, and then it starts changing. And now, like a boat going down the river or the ocean, now it was piloting great. Hey, here it is. And now 1 year old, 2 year old, 5 year old, 7 year old now, or for 20, 40, 50, the ship has turned. And because of all these life factors, and we need to steer the ship back. Does that make sense?
It does. And, I actually want to say all of that steering and winding roads actually make somebody more magnificent. If they can go through all of that, I believe that also builds that strength and character and makes them more, they can't be more complete because they're born complete and worthy. But I think then they start to accept differences. They start to figure out what they desire and what they don't desire. So I
Mm.
believe we come to earth to explore all emotions. And so people come in and out of our lives to create more magnificence because our mind believes it should only happen this way. And so I think our journey here is to explore differences, and differences are often misunderstood. Differences are really to be celebrated because that's what makes the world more complete. So yes, that baby is born, but actually forgets to go on that process of realizing and remembering their worthiness. So sometimes all of it's perfectly divinely orchestrated. And that's how there's no coincidence, right? We all meet the people we need to meet at whatever point in this journey. But this journey is accelerating. So for way too long, things stayed the same. But look, over the trends of life, we have airplanes and cars and all of these things. And so I think this view of being spiritual is also in transformation. Because again, it used to be maybe I'm going to sit and meditate all day. And we're saying, as a spiritual center, you're here to live your life. You're here to explore and travel and live and meet and connect with as many people as possible. And yes, you will go through stress. So maybe, perhaps, we need to have those conversations about how we handle stress, what our beliefs are on life and death. So these bigger conversations really help shake up those perspectives. And so I had this great conversation with a client, came in to become more in peace. We have detox and crystal beds and skio machines and all these beautiful tools. And this woman had spent a lot of money at one of those spiritual spas and got the works. And I love that people do this and are open to sound healing and connecting with others. But without new information, without these conversations, people go right back into creating the same thing, thinking the same, acting the same. And so the conversation was, the world is filled with hate, anger. And certainly we could look at the world that way, or we could look at all the beautiful things that are happening as well. But this individual didn't know how to create change. And that's really what we're after. So when I perseverate on anything in my life or in the world, and if I continue to add more anger, more conversation, more division, that goes into mass consciousness. So what we're trying to do here is we're not saying anything's right or wrong, but we're saying peaceful, loving energy is always stronger than hate, division, intolerance, and impatience. So to do that, that's when it goes back to mastering self. I need you to go back to the moment, go back to who you are, remember the beauty, process your emotions, and send those individuals more peaceful energy, more loving prayers, because they wouldn't act or behave or make those decisions if they love themselves.
Why do you think that there's more openness and awareness about this kind of stuff? Why are people more thirsty for some kind of change? They might not be able to put their finger on it or fully understand what we're talking about being spiritual, but they're craving it now more than ever. What the heck happened?
So we definitely see upgrades in energy. We see the children coming in to not fit in the box anymore. We saw a big population feeling misunderstood, feeling alone, again, more creative. They're not going to have the same job for 30 years type of thing. We're going to change and explore. And so I think, again, that's being driven by the new generations coming into Earth. And they're definitely at a different frequency. They're remembering more, the power of gratitude.
I want to share with you because you're spot on with that. I'm in a men's group. We had a meeting the other night, and some new men have joined the group and some younger ones. And we did an exercise where, what is your purpose? Let's figure out what your purpose is. So we had a volunteer, 25. He comes up and we have, the board, and we're writing things down. And we're asking him, where does he see himself in 5 years from now? And he wants to be top 5 in his company. He just got a new job and financially doing really good. His relationship with girlfriend is great. His goal is maybe to have a house within the next 5 years. But here's the interesting part. The rest of the 10 items that we jotted down as we threw him questions, and these are just basic questions, it was all about supporting community, creating a platform for the homeless. That was his passion.
Right.
Most of it was that. So, okay, somebody can, we call it Mr. Look Good. So Mr. Look Good's always going to tell you those things that I think you want to hear. But it was real. And here's where the real came in. we said, all right, dude, you just got $30 million. Here it is. 30. What are you going to do with the $30 million? You got it.
Yeah.
It didn't even move his needle. It's as if he didn't even care about it. It was more,
Right.
well, I would, build a homeless shelter. I would do this. So what you're saying here is that's where it's at right there, and
Yeah.
he is doing well financially with his job,
Right.
apparently.
Right.
Others may be a little bit different, but it's more of an eye on the quality of life and making life better for others.
Yeah, and that's the energy we're in. We're in this heart energy of love, kindness, connection, and that's truly spirituality. Um,
Can I ask you another question? I don't mean
of
to like jump in
course,
here, but it's like
yeah,
you're validating or answering things that I've always wondered about. So they say the fifth dimension is where you want to be. Long time coming. Many of us are in the third, some a little into the fourth, some dipping the toe into the fifth. The fifth dimension, as they say, is the ultimate feeling of love. Like it's just fantastic. Once you achieve it, you get there or even get close to it. And I'm asking this question based on what you just said. Back in the late 60s, early 70s,
right,
it was a song that came out, Age of Aquarius, which is technically where we are now, by a group called The Fifth Dimension.
right,
But back then, it was, if you remember, a time of peace, love, happiness, joy. Yeah, people were smoking weed and doing,
right,
peace signs and,
yeah,
having festivals and love and all of that.
right,
But it was going on. And you just
right.
said those words. Do you think that in some way we're kind of back to that now as, we've evolved?
Absolutely. I think, the time is now, and I think we're able to define it a little bit better than just sitting around hanging out. So I think it's about self-discipline. I
Mm.
think it's about hard work. I don't think it's just about partying and playing. I think it's about doing those causes, being in spirit to support and assist others. And I think money will always be a product of that loving energy. I think abundance follows that.
Well, what is money? Isn't it just paper that has an energetic connection? Really?
Completely. And so, as a spiritual center, money will always be a product of doing the things that drive that passion, drive that purpose, that love. And so, again, we can give it different dimensions. We can give it, I mean, I believe there's even more dimensions, but we're here in a less dense dimension to play in this sandbox, so to say, and try it out. Can talk is cheap, we can talk about all these, but let's put it into action. And so an individual like that young man is putting things in action and movement. And I bet, it requires hard work and dedication. And so again, all of this is an evolution from just let's chant and new age metaphysics where we didn't do. We're saying, no, we want you to work. We want you to live. We want you to can travel and connect with all people so that you ultimately come to the conclusion that we're all equal, we're all one. But we will all have times in our lives that will require great faith, belief in a positive outcome. So Earth is that place where it's not all kumbaya. It is going to be sickness, death, hardship, lose money, gain money, because that's part of the plan that your soul put in place. So I believe a soul comes in to try out different shoes, try out different experiences, to see what it's all about. Because let's face it, if you don't step in those shoes, you don't always truly understand what it feels like. It's real easy to think
Mm, but what you said earlier about, we're talking about the baby's born, that's the way the baby's supposed to be. And as life goes on, you have situations you need to deal with. And, sometimes I say, why do we have to learn lessons? Why can't it just be easy and fun? However, as I start looking at my journey and situation, which not about me, but
Yeah.
it's kind of what life is about. You start, it better defines you. You figure out better who you are when you go through those things. And also you build resilience. You said the word faith. You have faith in yourself, mastering self,
Yeah.
faith in the universe and everything around you, and also picking the right people that align with you, and letting the others go if you need to.
Well, and I think, again, people are supposed to come in and out of our lives. I
I
do
agree.
believe that.
Yeah.
Again, there's great growth in that, movement, perspective, all of that. But with that said, people can feel really alone. And that's, something that, being a counselor, studying suicide rates and knowing that people get really sad and feel isolated and alone. And that was part of this idea of a community to
Mm.
come together, to have these chats, to have these creative, we're doing vision boards on Saturday, a place for people to gather and imagine and not feel judged, because a lot of times we go places and there's this big judgment of how we look, how we act, what we did wrong in a sense. So we're looking for a place for people to connect, come together, and feel accepted.
Mm. You just spawned an idea. Maybe in the future when we get together, I've never done this. And I've done thousands of podcasts on metaphysical and spiritual
Yeah.
vision boards.
Yes.
Like, I think I know what I'm doing. I got one up here. It definitely needs a refresh. It's definitely
Right.
showing its age. Not, I'll put
Yeah.
the same, a lot of the same stuff up there, but maybe just a different view. But maybe we could do that, and your perspective on that. Final question. Got a couple of minutes left. This resonates with somebody. They're feeling it. And they're like, yeah, it's time. What is their starting point to becoming spiritual or more spiritual?
Well, and I think again, when you read, my mentor Elliot Eli Jackson channeled dozens of books that start to give you perspective, and there's something for everyone. From God to You, Absolute Truth starts to explore all these concepts and perspectives. So reading, connecting. Again, we have a lot of free infinitehealingandhealth.com, free chats, free ways to get involved. We train spiritual life coaches. So again, if you want to assist others, you want to find a way to reach out to others and communicate and make this a job. You can become a coach to root someone on, be their biggest cheerleader, hold them accountable at the same time for loving themselves, processing their experiences and emotions. So you may work with a coach or become a coach. And that's our goal, is really to have all these spiritual life coaches out there assisting others because they are an expert in their own life.
Mm.
And how many other people are going through similar experiences that we made it through? So now who better to help them through addiction, through divorce, through death, grief, loss, change? So spiritual life coaching is becoming hot, a big thing right now. We've trained dozens of individuals, and you create your own business in 4 months. You become a business owner, a spiritual life coach, and connected to this bigger community that is US wide right now. We're training coaches, and they're in all different states, opening different centers. Quantum Matrix Inc. is our bigger team that are working on promoting events and so forth at our centers.
Wow. I mean this with love. You're on a crusade, aren't you?
It's just the beginning, Steve. It's just the beginning.
and and it's fantastic. Best way to connect with you. And by the way, I didn't know you did spiritual life coaching. Coaching. I had no idea that was part of you.
Yeah, that
Amazing.
actually is a big part of my day because, again, I know without new information, change is hard to come by. So, again, new perspectives. And so, infinitehealingandhealth.com, everything is there, everything, what services we have. But again, connections, community. We're here in Middletown, New Jersey, but certainly there'll be many other places for you to find our information and connection.
Doesn't matter where you are, we're all connected. And proof of that comes with you and I. You just somebody that showed up here doing podcasts. As it turns out, I've lived in the same towns with an S that you've lived in. you taught, or was it teaching or guidance counseling?
Guidance counseling.
Yeah, in my high school,
Mhm.
the connection, we're all connected. If you keep going, and I guarantee if we kept going, there would be more that would show up. It is truly a small world. Let's better connect on a spiritual level. Colleen, thank you so much for today. Always great talking with you. So much to talk about, and maybe do a vision board or two in the near future.
I love it. Thanks, Steve, so much.
Thank
Pleasure to
you.
be here.
You too. We'll talk soon.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.